Hey, what's going on, everyone? Joe Menza here. Another sketchbook watercolor in the Canson XL sketchbook. And you can see I've already kind of started here. The camera didn't cooperate initially, but that's okay. I'm not that far along that you can't see what's going on here. I'm using some indigo, and you can see I'm painting smaller here, these mountains, and I can actually use the brushes. If you have a fan brush like this that's spread apart, you can actually take advantage of those little bristles being spread apart and create little white areas of the mountain, if that's something that works out well for you. It's just something that kind of happened, and I just went with it to show you just how to take advantage of the bristles in these brushes. So I hope you're enjoying this series of sketchbook watercolor. It was something that I just kind of had an idea to do, and I thought it might be fun because I was, there was time constraints in making videos and a few other variables, and I thought, well, maybe this would be a good idea. And initially I thought it would be an okay idea. And now that I've done several and I've been working out of several different sketchbooks, I have to say, for me, it's been very, very, very productive, and it's helped me on a personal level. Doing these small sketches, it's allowed me to maybe work out a few different things. And I'm hoping if you're a beginner, maybe even if you're more advanced and you say, I'm going to take a break from large scale paintings, I'm going to go down to smaller size. And it seems counterproductive, like if you're going to a smaller size, like maybe you can't do fast and loose in a smaller size, but you can, though. You still can. You can adjust your brush size. Someone had mentioned they wish they had a hake brush in a smaller size, and they do. You can get the small baby goat hair from Frank Clark. But I find that the fan brushes really can take the place of that. And so here I'm just kind of working on and I fly by the seat of my pants in these. There's a little bit of yellow on the bottom. I just kind of go with it and thinking, well, I'd like to do a mountain here, and I'm going to do some trees. And by doing these smaller ones in these little books, you can find out what works, what doesn't work, what color schemes work, what patterns work. And it can be very, very helpful. The only thing that you'll have to kind of do is I tend to paint a certain scale, a certain size of like figures or trees or mountains. And for me, it's been helpful because I've had to paint smaller. And I kind of get caught in this pattern of, okay, I'm painting sort of a panoramic landscape, but yet I keep painting my trees the same size, my mountains the same size. So here I've kind of had to adjust that and make little different changes in the sizes and things. But again, here, without feeling like I'm getting too much waste, I am using smaller sheets in these sketchbooks, and I'm enjoying myself. I can sit down in the living room and, paint very casually. I don't have to go off into a separate room, sit down, okay, here's my easel, I'm painting. I could take my sketchbook and go sit in the car. I can pull up at a site that maybe has a nice little view. I can carry the sketchbook and the little palette out to any location, really. And, again, the cost of it, you're looking at, whatever the cost of the sketchbook is. I've seen some for $10 and a little palette of paint, and maybe pick up a fan brush, and you're on your way. You're on your way. I've told people this, maybe they don't believe me, but when I got into this, I found it so enjoyable, and I felt like I missed out on years of what I could have had to enjoy. And I thought, I'm going to make videos and try to inspire people to say, try this for yourself. If you have like anxiety issues or things bothering you and stuff like that, maybe, and I'll say maybe because not everybody's the same, but for me, it has helped. And I know other people that it's helped. Other viewers who have sent me messages that, hey, I really have been inspired by your videos. I'm not trying to become like some social media person or something. Matter of fact, COVID, I got a lot of subscribers during that period. And it's like I never expected that. But so I always want to come up with new things to keep. I'm always looking at the beginner. What are you thinking on the other end? Like, getting started in this, picking up? Are you at Walmart and thinking, you know what, I'll try it. I don't want to spend more than a few bucks. Can you have a good time doing this for a small budget? And yes, you can. One of my recommendations was watercolor pencils. You can buy a box of watercolor pencils and you can write into a journal, and you can wet watercolor and make it come alive. So there's that. There's colored pencils. You know, anything that helps you to let out that creative side, to do something that is relaxing, you know, that kind of thing. Now here, just to get back to the painting, I know I've been talking too much as usual, but I'm using some white gouache here, and I'm using the tip of my finger and pressing against it lightly and taking advantage of the grain of the paper so I could make what looks like snow on the mountain. And for the sky, I've went with sort of like I mixed a red and a yellow together. It doesn't really matter. If you're buying one of these kits, there's red and yellow in there. You're going to make orange. Everybody knows, I think, the rules, right? Blue and yellow make green. Red and yellow make orange. Those basic things that we learned when we were in, first grade, kindergarten, that kind of thing, still apply here. The basic colors. Let's talk about primary colors for a minute. We have blue, red, and yellow. Those are your primaries. From those colors, you should be able to make everything. And then we have colors that are the secondary colors, tertiary colors as they call them. There's those, and you can look that up. Always good to do some research. Now, I've used some of this mixed with a little bit of ultramarine blue here. And you see how I have a very, very light blue. And that's making the shadow side of these mountains. And I find it's a very touchy balance to make this because you don't want it to look too cartoony. You're looking for that side to pop and have that nice little look to it while still having your own artistic spin on it. You can make mountains any color you want. That's the beauty of this sketchbook watercolor journey here, is that you can go in there and say, okay, I'm going to make purple. I'm going to use green. I'm going to make red mountains. Let's see what happens. And you might find a color scheme that's really appealing to you where you turn something on its head. I'm currently working on some urban landscapes. I keep getting drawn back to doing like cars and cityscapes and stuff like that. I'm never happy with it. They almost have to be done in a very abstract form, and I'm working something out. When I have a little more, I'll do more videos on those. Again, I'm using my finger here to do this shadow side, and I think this is looking... I like the way this is looking. I've got some clouds over the mountain here that I did with a little bit of white you can mix in. The only thing is, if you put your mountain and then your clouds, like I've been doing after, like a lot of times I'll do the sky last, just because I'm not really sure. Like I don't want to do a big bold sky and then throw a mountain on top of it, waste my time. So sometimes I'll do the sky last. But then I end up making my clouds go around the mountain, and I think it's kind of obvious. So it's like something you kind of want to be, conscious of. And also with like the trees, like, you put one tree on one side, one tree on the other side. Sometimes it looks too geometrically perfect. If you go back and you look at some of my earlier paintings, and not that they were bad or anything, I think they still hold up in a lot of respects, but I did a lot where I did two trees. I was focused on what they call the arch, where you have the branches and you're looking through like an archway. But it was too left and right geometrically perfect. Like you had a tree on the left, tree on the right. Needed to be mixed up if you're going to do that. Have a couple of trees on one side and then one tree on the other side. So it looks more random, like you would find in nature. So here I'm going back to these trees. Because of this blue that I've used, these are kind of blending in with my background environment, which leaves it open to you. If you think I'm going to put some pines in this one, put the pines in first. Try that. This gives you the opportunity with the sketchbooks to try things in a different way that you've thought about doing it. Hey, I'm going to put my trees down first. I'm going to leave a lot of white. I'm not going to wet the paper down this time. It takes a lot of paper and a lot of paint. And you're doing these big paintings only at the end to have some form of disappointment. And then you're frustrated and you want to give up. In these little sketchbooks, you flip the page and you go on to the next one. And you say, what do I like? When you're done with the painting, you should say, what do I like about this? What don't I like about this? What can I use this in my next painting? Because as artists, that is always what we're chasing. We're chasing, hey, the next one's going to be better. The next one's going to be perfect. But it isn't going to be perfect. There's always going to be something. But when you show it to people, they're not going to focus on what you were focused on. They're not going to focus on, like I said, about the clouds kind of going around the mountain. Nobody may look at that. But, just let it hang out there. And again, put these books, put it on your coffee table, put it on your end table, put it on your nightstand, pick it up and flip through. See, my other paintings before, when I would do these big giant ones, or 12 by 15, not giant, but I have like 3 bins of paintings that I just put in the bin. And it's like I've struggled over these paintings, making sure little details were right, and this was right, and that was right. And I put them in the bin, and it's like I have to go dig through this bin if I want to go and look on my social media where I've put up, a lot of my paintings. But if you go on Instagram, I think I have like over 1,000 paintings on there, so it takes a while to scroll back to the beginning. But with these little books, you can just lay them out on your coffee table and have a couple here, one there, and people pick them up and they just thumb through them. Hey, this is kind of nice. Yeah, it's my little hobby, you say. I do little sketches in these books. And then maybe later on, you go through your book and you say, this one painting was my favorite. I'm going to make this into something bigger. And then you go and you get out the 12 by 15 and you say, okay, I'm going to recreate this. And I'm going to recreate this as a full-blown watercolor that I'm going to frame and have a good time with. So here we have a little mountain scene, and I've put in some little rocks and things, and I've highlighted the trees. I found with these trees, while it's wet, you can add a little yellow on top of the blue when you make blue evergreens, and you will get a green, of course, because it's transparent. That's another color mixing aspect to think about when you're doing watercolor, is the transparency layer. So you take one color and then put another color over the top, and you essentially get a new color. So if you have blue and you put yellow on top, without mixing them, you're going to have green. It's going to be a slightly different look to it than if you actually mix the colors. But it serves sort of the same function, because when you're dealing with watercolor, you are dealing with transparent colors. So here I'm scratching in a few little things, little rocks and things, little sticks on the tree and stuff like that. And again, you can work out what works here. Practice your rock scraping. Who wants to do a 12 by 15 painting, okay? And you're like, okay, now I'm going to scratch in some rocks, and they really don't come out properly because you haven't practiced it enough. And in these little books, you can practice. You can do just rock scraping. And the nice idea of the book is it keeps everything together. It's a nice little organizational history of what you've been doing. And if you can't do, you can get, okay, so there are, if you look on the paper racks in the hobby stores, you may find some that have the Strathmore, and I don't know if it still comes like this because I haven't seen it in a while, but like Strathmore 400 comes in a spiral bind, so that you can keep them together in the spiral and just flip over to the next page. See here, look at them. I'm scraping in with my card. I wet this down, and I scraped in my card. I scraped in a little, just to kind of make a plane there below the mountain. And then another thing I found out if you take a little tap with your finger, you can make like little roundish shapes with the paint, which is another thing if you enjoy finger painting. I know people that they just paint exclusively with their fingers. See, I'm trying to make these clouds stand out a little bit more. And that's about it. That's the finished piece here. I hope you enjoyed this one. I hope you're enjoying this series, because I'm going to continue on with it. And we'll have more videos coming. Hopefully every week I plan to, if I have the time. Thanks for watching, everyone.